welcome to another edition of Issues with Jide. Here we'll talk about actions and inactions of those who shape our national and political landscape and how these impact us positively or otherwise. I'm Ibrahim Shita. Today on the show, DSS Unmasks, politicians plotting to install interim government. APC demands Datti's arrest. Also, World Exco suspends Labour Party's national chairman as PDP reverses suspension of Anyim, Fayose, among others. Debt profile hits 46 trillion naira. In the course of the program, we'll take your questions, but first, subscribe to our YouTube channel and drop your questions in the comment section. I have joining me via Zoom the master himself, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju. Good to see you again, Bikil.
Good to do this with you again.
Right. The Department of State Services says the plot to set aside the Constitution and install an interim government by political actors is real and has identified some key players. What's your reading of the DSS disturbing revelation?
Well, I can't dismiss what they have said. Whenever the DSS speaks, as a country, we must take what the DSS says seriously. Remember, the DSS issued more than 40 warnings that terrorists were going to storm Abuja, that terrorists were going to invade the prisons. It was after the act that we got to know that he had actually filed in some security reports indicating that that attack will happen. They also told us that some attacks will happen in the north central states. And I wasn't surprised when terrorists struck in Okene in the north central state of Kogi State on the day the president was visiting. So whenever they come up with advisory or issue a security report,
right,
I think it makes sense for us to not take their report seriously because they are simply doing their work. It makes no sense to dismiss what they have said as the rantings of serious people. We shouldn't do that because one day you will take their warning lightly and then we could regret it as a nation. So in this case, we know politicians, we know what they are capable of doing. Every time the Nigerian politician loses an election, he tries to find excuses to justify the loss. He tries to explain away the loss. And if he cannot explain away the loss, he will gang up with other people to invite the military. This happened even during the Second Republic. As soon as the MPN was re-elected for another term in office, yes, the election, the 1983 election was rigged. In fact, that was the year in which the landslide and moonslide became popular in Nigeria. Those talking about this election being the worst in our history, maybe some of them were not born in 1983, or the ones who were born just chose to be deliberately dishonest or to not show a sense of history. The truth is, in 1983, politicians on their own invited the military to come and take power. So never put anything beyond the Nigerian politician who is bitter, who has lost an election, and who thinks that he should have won. So in this case, we've seen some people who went to the defense headquarters to beg the military to take power. As far as these misguided and thoroughly deluded people are concerned, it has to be their candidate or nobody. So they can invite the devil to take power in Nigeria as long as it satisfies their desire to not see a particular person take power. This is what we are seeing. And I won't be surprised because this silly talk about interim government has been on for some time. It didn't start yesterday. It's something that had been discussed for months. I remember Chief Affe Babalola was the first person to talk about the possibility of an interim national government. And that was long before this election. It was, I think, around the time we had the primaries. So I think it makes sense to not simply dismiss the findings of the DSS. People have encouraged the DSS to go ahead and arrest people. But sometimes too, such arrests further eat up the quality. Also, it's not every time that you resort to extreme action to solve a problem. There are many people who are setting traps for our country. They want violence to take over our country. They want bedlam to envelope our country. And all one can do is simply appeal to Nigerians to embrace peace. Those who have lost the election, they are seeking they are seeking to prove that they actually won the election through the courts. And I think that is the legal way by which we can, which mandates can be retrieved if indeed such mandate was stolen. So I think it makes sense to allow legal means to prevail in the circumstances that we have found ourselves instead of extra constitutional means, because the interim government is not known to the Nigerian Constitution, and after more than 22 years of unbroken democracy, the worst we can do to ourselves is to bring the roof down, invite the military, or cause an interim government to happen.
Right.
Just because our preferred candidate or our messiah did not get to win.
Right. There
the election.
There are interesting questions for you, BKO, on the social media. But before we go there, let me quickly take this question. Whereas the ruling All Progressives Congress wants the Labour Party vice presidential candidate for his unpresidential statement be arrested for his unpresidential statements, which has landed Channels TV in NBC's net. I would like you to react to this vis-a-vis the trending video of a passenger who acted disobediently on an Abuja-Lagos flight, causing massive disruptions to the normal operations.
No, the kind of comments that people like Datti are making on TV and are getting away with is what, in my view, has encouraged the nonsense that we saw aboard that Ibom Air plane. People cannot be allowed to make subversive statements at this time. Otherwise, people will think that it is the norm and that whatever they say, they will get away with it. There is no country in the world where you could go on TV and simply open your mouth wide without making sense and think that you can get away with it. Even Donald Trump, then seen as the most powerful man in the world, was yanked off CNN when he made statement that they did not deem sensible. So these things happen. You have got to respect the law of the land. And TV stations are guided by the broadcast code. And the idea thing is, if you made a statement and you are cautioned, and you wouldn't stop making those statements as if you own the TV station, the idea thing is for this TV station to for the producer of the program to go on a break, and they can actually send you packing. I've seen that happen before. NBC officials in our country have stormed the TV station to chase out a guest who was making divisive statements capable of setting our country ablaze. We all still remember what happened in Rwanda. The broadcast media fueled the violence in Rwanda. In fact, many people actually blame the broadcast media for the violence that led to over 1 million deaths. So if people are not restrained, if people are not resisted, and they say just what they like on TV, divisive comments capable of pitting us against one another, then we'll see more and more people coming into an aircraft to put up the kind of show that fellow put up that day. Remember, there was even a meeting, a Twitter meeting, or what was it called, where some people were suggesting that they should disrupt the inauguration. Some were saying that they should use, that they should even get an aircraft to bomb the inauguration ground on Twitter. And these things were recorded. They sent me an audio clip of it. So perhaps that fellow had listened to it, and they simply want to resort to terrorism. So I really don't see why somebody should go to that ridiculous extent. But the law enforcement agents will do what is right.
Right. So let me see one or two questions here. That there are some of the questions that are being asked here. Well, Fiben Akeze says, this is what happens when Nigerians choose to be divided by religious and ethnic lines. Rather, understand the dynamics of Nigerian politics. No one candidate has a solution to all our problems. Shomade says, honestly, Babalola, I thought you unsubscribed. Oh, okay. I think that's from our friend from last edition that said it, that threatened to unsubscribe. So I'll take one of his comments here. He said, Jide, between you and your God, knowing you will meet him one day, did Tinubu win the election? Let's start with the question.
I swear to Almighty God, Tinubu won the election. I swear to Almighty God. And when I say I swear to Almighty God, I'm sure of what I'm saying.
That's okay. That answers it. Let me see one or two questions here.
I'd made predictions. I had made predictions, and I think I was on maybe the 26th state. And from those predictions, it was clear who was going to win. Look, if Tinubu rigged the election in northern Nigeria, where the bulk of the votes are, do you think they will be silent the way they are silent?
Absolutely.
How come these protests are limited to only a part of southern Nigeria, just a very small part of southern Nigeria? How could anybody want me to believe that Peter Obi won the election? Bring a Bible, bring anything to me. I will swear to God that Tinubu won the election. Because I'm sure. I'm sure. This is the thing. I don't know how people came to the conclusion that Obi must have won the election when he didn't win a single state dominated by Muslims. In Yoruba land, the state that has the highest percentage of Muslims is Osun State. And that state was won by the PDP.
Yeah.
In northern Nigeria, the northwest states, that's where you have the highest population of Muslims. Obi never won any state there. The highest performance that he recorded in the northwest was in Kaduna State. Just in Kaduna State, and he didn't score up to 25% there. But that was his best performance in the Northwest.
Right.
In other places, yes. So that is the thing. I think he scored 21% or so in Kaduna State. That's the highest in the Northwest. You can't win an election in Nigeria if you do not do well in the Northwest. That is a fact.
Absolutely.
And he didn't do well in the Northwest. No one should deceive himself that Peter Obi won the election. He didn't win. Bring anything. I will swear with it. I will swear with it that one, Peter Obi didn't win the election, and two, Tinubu won the election.
Right.
I can also tell you that if Peter Obi had not been in the race, Atiku would have defeated Tinubu easily. That's another fact from me. You hear me, I say the truth all the time. This is the way God created me. If Obi had not been in the race, if Obi had not taken away those votes that Atiku used to get in Nigeria's Christian-dominated northern states, the South-South and the Southeast, it will have been an easy win for Atiku over Tinubu. But in this election, Tinubu won. Despite losing, the question is, if you wanted to rig, won't you start with your own state? They always say that you rig where you are popular. Why did he lose Lagos? Why did he lose Kaduna, lost Kano, lost Katsina? All the biggest states, Tinubu lost. No. So for me, people, because I always say, oh, I will meet my God, I am ready to meet my God, stand before him and say that this is the person who won the election. This has nothing to do with whether I like him or I don't like him. I've said repeatedly that I do not want to work for a politician, and it will stay like that.
That's a fact.
People accuse me, they said I didn't condemn the killings, the attacks in Lagos. I have condemned it 4 times now. They say you can't do it. If you do it, you will lose your job. I have condemned the attack on TV 4 times. One on Your View, 2 times on this program, and then on, I think 2 times again on Journalist Hangout. Nothing has happened to me. My future is defined by God and no one else.
Absolutely.
So this is the thing. Tinubu won the election. I've answered your question.
Right. So Nelson Adufesa says, BK, I wish meeting you one day. However, what will it cost Nigerian DSS to assure that the perpetrators of these treasonable thoughts are named, shamed, and arrested? This should not be swept under the carpet. That's a comment, but we need to raise some because of our time. There is an apparent crisis in Labour Party over the suspension of its national chairman, Julius Abure, by the Edo State chapter. This is coming 1 week after Senator Yocha Ayu, national chairman of the PDP, was suspended by his ward in Benue State, which led to his exit from his position, at least for now. Help us make sense of this developing story, BKO.
I can tell you that this is not a topic that we should even waste more than 5 minutes on.
Right.
These guys who purportedly suspended Abure, they made a cheap shot at publicity, cheap shot at gaining publicity, cheap shot at controversy. The constitution of the Labour Party is clear about how and who can suspend the national chairman of the party. I mean, just because some people did it in Benue, does it then mean that the same thing should be done in respect of Labour Party? No. They are wasting their time because they have not followed the law. And I think that whichever way you look at it, Abure has done well as national chairman of Labour Party. A man who led his party to win 11 states and FCT. A man who led his party to win 8 senatorial seats and 34 House of Reps seats, in addition to seats in the Houses of Assembly in different states, including Lagos. a man who led his party to win a governorship election, the best performance in the history of that party. How do you intend to reward such a person with suspension and claims that he did anti-party, he supported APC? Where is the evidence that Abure supported APC? I mean, there ought to be limits to the nonsense that we see during the political season, during the electoral season. There ought to be some level of decorum. It is said that even the people who made this announcement in Abuja, well, they are not even known to the party. Because the Exco of the party at state and world level, they are well known. Nobody knows these ones. They just went and said, okay, that they suspended the national chairman. Only the national convention, which is the highest decision-making organ of the party, can suspend the chairman. And to suspend the chairman, the convention has to be called strictly for that purpose, for the purpose of suspending the chairman. So it's a waste of time what these guys have done. They've made a cheap shot at controversy, a cheap shot at cheap popularity. And I know that that is where to win. Abure will continue the good work that he has started. Many people didn't give the Labour Party a chance, but we're seeing now a lot of us wanted a third force. We've been talking about a third force. Now, the Labour Party has given us that third force so that we can shake the two dominant parties who have dominated the scene for too long. And they are hardly even different from one another. You see, this one is in APC today, tomorrow is going to the PDP. They are not different. They are like children of the same parentage. Now we had the Labour Party coming in and giving them real competition. Real competition. All the major parties. Labour Party took states away from them in the presidential election. Took some states from PDP, took some states from APC. APC lost 12 states in the presidential election. The governorship election was a lot worse in terms of violence and even adherence to the electoral code. But the February 25 election was much better. That was why we were able to see opposition win more states during the February 25 election.
Right. So the PDP has reversed the suspension of Fayose Anyim, Fayose, Ibrahim Shema, etc. How would you describe this move after the convulsions, so to speak, the party suffered in recent times?
Naturally, when you lose an election, the way the PDP has lost, you want to do some soul searching. You want to look inwards and see where you went wrong and what you could do. But they went about it the wrong way. It is not by sacking or kicking out your heavy hitters, the best people that you have, that you can bounce back to glory. That's not how you bounce back to preeminence. You have to do a lot of post-mortem and ask yourself the pertinent question. What did we do wrong? Where did we do wrong? But you can see that they were in a hurry. And then they suspended these people even without following the due process. Fayose, on the 24th of March, his lawyer served them a letter indicating the desire to go to court for some of the tendentious comments made against him, even in the press conference where he and others were suspended. In the case of the former governor of Katsina State, Ibrahim Shema told them that if they do not reverse the suspension immediately, he would now officially go and join another party. Of course, they didn't want that to happen. So This is their chance to try to regroup, bring all their troops together, and then plan for future elections. There are still off-season elections ahead. You have to jump together, fight together as one party. And this was the suggestion I made to them. I said it at that time that it was wrong to suspend those people. You don't suspend your best. Resolve the differences and then face the future. That's what they should have done, but they made that mistake. They rushed because a lot of things are based on sentiments in our country. A lot of things are based on sentiment. So, yes, because you didn't like Fayose and the rest of them, you just felt you needed to kick them out of the party. No, that's not how to rebuild. You have to put your house in order, get everyone working together, everyone singing from the same hymnal, and then prepare for the next election. I always give the example of Kwankwaso. Kwankwaso lost in 2019. He decided that he will not fight. He won't enter an aircraft and be threatening people. He will not try to bring the roof down. He made up his mind that 4 years is not a long time. And today, I can tell you that Kwankwaso is more popular in Kano than he was in 2018 and 2019. I've said that repeatedly on TV. I've not seen anybody who will come out and say that I exaggerated or I lied, because I worked in Kano for almost 9 years. I know the city of Kano, the state of Kano, like the back of my hand. So I know that Kwankwaso is a lot more popular now than he was in 2019 because he was patient. He waited for time to resolve the issues for him. And time, as they say, is a gentleman.
Right. So, BK, can you hear me?
Let's go.
Right.
Yes.
So, our final topic for today, because of our time, new borrowings, promissory notes, others have pushed Nigeria's public debt to 46.25 trillion naira. That's about $103.11 billion as of December 31st, 2022. What's the implication of this on the Nigerian overall health status?
It's a terrible situation because even higher than your revenue to service debt, where are you going to find money to boost electricity, especially renewable energy and all that, across our country? It's going to be tough. So this is the reason some of us are worried. In the first 4 months of 2022, we spent 118% of our revenue on servicing debt. 118% of our revenue in the first 118% of our revenue in the first quarter of 2022. We spent it on servicing debt, which means that we even exceeded our revenue. We must not get to the point that we'll be borrowing money to pay debt. That would be very dangerous for us as a country. During that same period, South Africa spent just 20%. Because in 2022, we spent 86% of our revenue overall to service debt. During that period, South Africa spent just 20% of its receipts on debt service. How can we have the more debt you garner, the more money you spend on debt servicing? And the more money you spend on debt servicing, the more difficult it is for critical sectors of the economy to find the funding that they need desperately. For example, roads won't have enough. Education won't have enough. Electricity won't have enough. Schools won't have enough. That's why we have to discourage this endless borrowing. People say, oh, that we are borrowing for infrastructure, but We have now overdone things. In 2015, our debt stock was 12.6 trillion naira. By 2016, it went to 17.360 trillion. In 2017, it went to 21.72 trillion naira. In 2018, it was 24.387 trillion. In 2019, it went to 27.401 trillion. In 2021, it went to 39.56 trillion. And 2022, last year, it went to 46.28 trillion naira. We can't continue like this. Look at the gap. At the time when this government took over, it was 12.6 trillion. Now they are handing over at 46.28 trillion. That is last year's figures. I can tell you that it's already projected that by the end of this year, it will have hit 77 trillion. So it's something to be really worried about, because you are not sourcing enough revenue to be able to service your debt without hurting the economy.
Right, that's it, Bikio. Fabian Akese says that is why PMB wanted Ahmed Lawan to be the candidate of the party at all costs, because he approved of all of his loans, borrowing for infrastructure that we would never be able to pay off, unpardonable. Another comment here.
Yes, he's right.
Right?
Yeah, Fabian Akese was right.
Okay.
I've had to challenge the Senate president even on this. You know, now everybody's regretting now. Even the Senate president made some remarks the other day that, look, we can't continue like this. At some point, we have to stop. But since 2019, you've been giving the president everything that he asked for. We are looking for the cheap way. Instead of reducing our expenditure on lawmakers and other areas through which our resources are leaking, where we are wasting money, we do not want to look inwards and cut costs. We are looking for cheap ways. And the cheap way is to simply go and ask for loan. When you want to build infrastructure, everything, loan. There are even some infrastructure that you can do on the basis of build, operate, and transfer. I've talked about Angola building a new refinery on the basis of build, operate, and transfer. You are not going to put any money down.
Right.
It helps. It's not everything that you just allocate money to. Get the private sector involved. Let private sector deliver infrastructure to us, and then they will operate for some time. After some time, they will hand it over to our country. That's the model that other countries are using. If Angola can get a new refinery on the basis of that, so what is our own problem? We just want to award contracts at all times, and the funds are not available.
So we need to coast home. Mokaila Atonda says, I lived in the United States. America is highly indebted. Honesty Babalola says, Ibrahim Shita, please stop featuring Jide alone. Make it double guest for balance output. Well, the program is titled Issues with Jide. It's all about what Jide thinks about certain issues or issues that are trending. Politics, economy, health, name it. So it's all about Jide's thoughts, what he thinks about issues. Correct?
It is not issues with Ibrahim. It is issues with Jide.
So the only person you may not see here
me
is me, but you often see Jide. If Jide is not here, then we probably will not have the show for today. So it's all about
there won't be any problem.
Right.
You don't want my own version of the truth, have you? Clearly, that's what you don't want to hear. But when it comes to speaking the truth, I do not see anybody better at doing it than me.
Right.
I risked my job. I risked everything just to speak the truth, and I've been like this for so long.
Absolutely.
And that's the way to be.
Absolutely.
On Thursday, I said it on the program. I said, if Tinubu does not perform, we will sit here inside our studio and criticize him.
Correct.
Challenge me, see whether I will not do it.
Correct. Even when you swore.
So we don't have to support this thing.
Right. Even when you swore.
Just because we do not agree. Yes.
When you swore, some people were also commenting that, why did you swear? Why are you swearing? Please don't swear. They ask you to swear. You swore, and they are still saying you shouldn't swear.
You can't please Nigerians. You see, when I swore, it convinced a lot of them that is the truth. They don't want you to go to that extent when you are saying the truth. But it's the truth.
Absolutely.
If I stand before my God, I will say the same thing.
Absolutely. All right, then.
I will say the same thing. I'm too knowledgeable about Nigeria and its people for me not to know certain things.
All right. It's time for us to go, BKO. That's our show for today's edition of Issues with Jide. Special thanks to you, Babajide Kolade-Otitoju, for those insightful analyses as always. BKO.
Thank you. Thank you for another energetic show today. Continue to do this for as long as God permits. May Nigeria see good governance. Anyone who watches this show knows that I'm not happy with where things are going.
Correct.
Whether it is insecurity or rising debt, we long for something better. And I know that a lot of people watching me, they also want to see a better Nigeria. We are in it together. You know, we may have differences about the way the elections went, but do not think for one moment that we do not love our country. I love the country as much as you guys love it. Correct. And I'll do whatever it takes to help us achieve a better country.
Right. Evidently, that's the reason why we have this show, Issues with Jide. And thanks to you, to our audience, for joining us on every edition. You can see the program again anytime by subscribing to our YouTube channel, TVC News Nigeria. Click on the subscribe button to get the latest information. You can also follow us on our social media platforms at TVC News NG and also at Ibrahim_Shita. On behalf of the rest of the team, I'm Ibrahim Shita. See you again next edition. Bye for now.